afraid, well, I'm glad that she didn't say yes, because in fact she passed away 2 months ago. So my encounter with female writers is not that good. If you're so smart, you bring somebody. Right, next question.
Highly specific time, space, culture, or indeed the clash of cultures.
Okay, we've got 15 more minutes. Let's have a few more intelligent questions like the last one. Yes, okay, go on. Yeah, at the back. The man with a suit.
Nobody's mentioned Murdoch.
Iris Murdoch, she won the Booker Prize. The sea.
No, I was thinking rather more of the contemporary situation in the UK. What sort of fallout do you think is the Murdoch situation going to have on journalism in particular?
Yes, well, Adrian, you're probably more close than anybody else on this issue. You write for the Sunday Times. He's your boss.
I was in the select committee meeting. In fact, if you look at the TV reruns, you can see me in the top left-hand corner behind you.
Were you whacked by Wendy?
It was impressive.
It was impressive.
And I went in. I sat in the committee. I came out. That next day, I wrote 2,000 words for this Sunday. What was it? Day after tomorrow. And that afternoon, I went to Heathrow and got on a plane and came here. And as I got on the plane, I thought, thank God, I don't have to think about the bloody hacking scandal anymore up in Hong Kong. And I'll have better things to talk about.
And what, seriously, for one moment, what's going to be the fallout of it all?
Who the fuck knows? I don't know. We've already lost one newspaper. We've lost the News of the World, which I loved, which was a great newspaper. And as we were saying before, we don't have that many newspapers that we can start throwing them away. The point about freedom of speech is that it's not about the people who you agree with. It's about protecting the people you violently disagree with. That's what's important about a libertarian society. And I think that this is a sort of a madness that's come out of nobody who writes about Murdoch or about the press or about hacking or about any of this scandal. Nobody is a disinterested party. There is nobody who stands back and says, this is an opinion which comes simply from, as David would say, observing the facts. Everybody has a dog in this fight. And that, I think, is why it's become hysterical. Is where it will end? Who knows? I have a sense, I have a feeling back at home that people are beginning to think that in a week which had huge news stories, famine, a huge famine in North Africa, the euro collapsing, Greece, perhaps Italy going down the pan, Dominic Strauss-Kahn, whatever got him off the front page. We also had a nurse who was killing people in hospitals.
NASA.
We had NASA. We had Walker. We had the British Army got out of Lashkar, a place that it's been defending and has cost us a lot of dead soldiers. All of those things would have been naturally big front page headline stories, and none of them made it because we were arguing about people's telephones. I think it was a great miasma of hysteria. But where it ends, who knows?
Tom, you you want to say anything?
I just think it's, there was a point at which it changed in the national consciousness, and it was just a whole lot of hacks and executives arguing on the front page.
They said they hacked your phone, and you have said you don't really care.
Why they? God only knows. Most people have been hacked. It crossed it when the Millie Downer and the child, a murdered child, that was crossing a line. Who cares about celebrities, minor celebrities, whoever it is? You just don't leave messages on your telephone. Secondly, the fact that this whole thing... Imagine if Murdoch suddenly said, I'm going to sell the Times, I'm going to sell the Sun. Imagine who could get hold of that. And, he is, for all... Whatever anyone says about him, I think he's very much a journalist's, proprietor. He likes newsprint, he likes stories. I think he's done very, very well with the Sun, News of the World, RIP. I love the News of the World. Shocking sacrifice today. They should have got rid of the Star or something, Not the News of the World. I think it's been blown out of all proportions.
I think the ramifications of the hacking thing will go on and on and on. I think
we've heard about the
just ask the question.
Literary heroes and heroines. What about the literary villains? Or in another way, who are the most overrated writers, both living or dead?
Where to start?
That is a
most of them on the panel, I think.
Who do you revile?
As a writer?
Yes, anything.
I can't bear John Irving.
John Irving. That's all.
Living writers.
Living.
It doesn't matter.
I think the you really want... there were sort of bad writers, and then there were really, really bad good writers. So it's reckoned writers who are simply awful, and you would have to go an awful long way to beat Virginia Woolf.
Oh, God.
Simply dreadful. Orlando is possibly the worst good book ever written.
Do you think Virginia Woolf...
I'd put stones in her pocket.
I find her completely unreadable. But I think there's hot competition.
Are we allowed to do journalists as well?
Yeah.
Probably time being. Straight, not as a person, but as a journalist.
Oh yeah, I've asked you. Is there somebody else that you absolutely revile?
I find, again, an awful lot of the so-called modernism. I find Ulysses beyond belief inane.
Finnegan's Wake?
Worse. I hate...
I just bought the notes for them.
Yeah. But a book that requires notes. A work of fiction that requires this vast scholarly superstructure. And it's what kills a Shakespeare play.
How about T.S. Eliot?
The Wasteland is wonderful. The Wasteland is a wonderful...
No, exactly. You need notes for that.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Joyce is very good.
No,
Yeah.
I want Trollope. Not just Trollope, but people who like Trollope.
You don't like Trollope? No, Trollope is good.
Trollope is dreadful.
That's
like
Trollope.
Coronation Street with frock coats.
But that's what we all are. We're all parochial in our own way. I'm sure you, with your high-mindedness, that sound extremely grand, so well, extremely petty, just like a parochial curator out of a
great book. Unreadable book, Don Quixote. Don Quixote. Unreadable.
Unreadable? I think the Alexandra Quartet is unreadable. I have now tried it 5 times, and I cannot get over the first one, which is called Olive or Justin. I can't remember. David, which book have you started and have never managed to finish? And you?
Oh, so many.
So, really bad ones.
No. I had a phase when I read widely in fiction and really enjoyed it. One in my teens, one in my late 20s, and another continuing to my early 30s. I can't really remember a single novel after that I've actually enjoyed. And this is a problem with me. It's not at all a problem with the novel as a form. I simply am not terribly interested in the invention.
You've got a worst historian.
A worst historian? No,
Andrew Roberts is any good.
Andrew Roberts is a very, very fine historian. a relatively narrow scope of time, as most of us are. He's an excellent historian. In fact, what I find is interesting is that most of the well-known historians that tend to get rubbished by the rest of the profession are obviously the best.
Okay.
I believe in the winnowing of fame.
Last question. Tom, is there somebody else that you can't stand, you can't bear?
I could, Lawrence, I can live without.
Lawrence, what?
D.H. Lawrence.
D.H. Lawrence.
Yes, well.
You haven't killed something. I'm constantly, which in the Tudor period is difficult, I'm constantly reminded I haven't killed something, or I didn't get them born. They're jolly useful for that. When it actually comes to bigger structural questions, because remember, like Nicholas, but unlike Tom and Adrian, I tend to write in very big swoops. I mean, in other words, several, usually 150, 200,000 words. But also, within that, again, to achieve something like the polish of the essay form, chapter by chapter. I think big books need to do that.
My wife reads everything I write and crosses a lot out. And I take her once every... If I'm in big pain...
You take her not enough.
No, I was going to say every 2 months I take her to...
What? Every 2 months?
He said he wrote the rest after all.
I take her to a restaurant every 2 months. The purpose of the entire meal is for me to quiz her on the next few chapters of my book. It's as often...
She has 3 courses of talking about you.
Yes.
That's enough about me. What do you think about me?
Exactly what she does do.
Once every 2 months. Okay. Well, there it is. Okay. Another question? No question.
Yeah, there's a hand.
Yes, okay, yes. Yeah.
Which other writer would you question to improve your own writing, and what would the question...
Wrote, because he wrote in a particular sort of English, a Latinate English that I would never want to write like, but I'm amazed and fascinated by how he did it, epigrammatic English. I would love to be able to write like Mark Twain, who I think is probably the best writer of the sort of writing that I do. And I expect that his answer would be as dull and as mundane, as unhelpful as mine would be.
I'm such an admirer of the writing of Dominic Dunn, and especially of his novels. And I once did a thing which, in fact...
I think he's one of the worst writers
I think he's one of the most wonderful writers. They ran up, they were so excited about Buckle's Ball. I felt only shame when I read it.
Well, I won a W.H. Smith too, and I thought it was rather good, because it's the only prize that's actually determined by readers, as opposed to a cabal of these dreadful things called critics. So I very much approve the W.H. Smith prize.
Do you pay any attention?
I would love it even for something good read.
Yeah. Do you pay any attention to the Booker Prize?
I was once long-listed for it, foolishly. No, I don't think I'm ever really going to be up for literary awards.
A wistful note. Yes.
All right, okay, well, that's that. All right, that's a few more questions. Okay, good.
I was wondering with today's...
You don't have to kneel down, stand up.
Okay. I have the obsession today with social networking, things like Facebook, Twitter, and all the language, the digital, internet language that we use a lot today. I was wondering how that would affect writing in the future, and if they would have to include words such as wall, poke, tweet, and how that would affect quality of writing. And just
What was the first
in
word?
general. What?
What was the first word?
Tweet, wall, poke.
What's a wall?
Wall is where you write on your Facebook.
Your status on your wall.
And nowadays, everyone's obsessed with social networking on the internet. And I was wondering if...
You're talking about all the abbreviations...
Yeah, and the actual
ungrammatical
large
string.
part of life that is dedicated to the internet, that would have to be included in future
Do you think it will affect
How would that be?
writing? Is that your
included?
question?
Of course it will. I mean, sorry. I think language, people bang on about this is a destruction of the English language. Language is a constantly evolving, fluid thing, and these words will, whether we like them or not, what's the one LOL? My favourite one's FFS. that's fantastic. But these words are now moving into language, as people 30 years ago, 100 years ago, 400 years ago, oh, it's all going down.
You're absolutely right. It's very convenient to have abbreviated swear words because then you get through the firewall. Because you
find anything out. Everybody can be told everything all the time. And it's really changed the dynamic of it. And I think you're quite right. I think that someone's tried to make one movie, You've Got Mail, about social networking. And it was about 50 years ago. It wasn't terribly good. But I expect you're quite right. I expect it will become what the lesser was in Victorian fiction. Or it could be or something completely different. But it will change the way people write.
I'm writing a novel at the moment that goes from the 1970s to the present day, and I had to figure out when the mobile phone suddenly became an everyday object